Council meeting of the 20th of February 2024, which is being held in person here in the Council Chamber, Ferris Boulevard, South Morang, and the meeting is also being live streamed. I'm Lydia Wilson, Chair of Administrators, and I'd also like to introduce my panel colleagues. Firstly, Peter Duncan.
Good evening, everyone.
And secondly, Christian Zara.
Good evening, everyone.
And I'd also like to now introduce our Chief Executive Officer, Craig Lloyd, and ask that he introduce the members of the Executive Leadership Team in attendance this evening. Thank you, Craig.
Thank you, and good evening, Chair. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to introduce our Director of Planning and Development, Emma Appleton, our Director of Community Wellbeing, Agata Himalevsky, Director of Customer and Corporate Services, Sarah Renner, Director of Infrastructure and Environment, Debbie Wood, Executive Manager Public Affairs, Janine Morgan, and at the table here, Executive Manager of Office of Council and CEO, Jacinta Stevens. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Craig. I note that there are no apologies this evening. And on behalf of Council, I recognise the rich Aboriginal heritage of this country and acknowledge the Wurundjeri Willem clan and Tongarong people as the traditional owners of lands within the city of Whittlesea. And I'd also like to pay my personal respects to elders past, present and emerging. I'd like to now read our diversity and good governance statement. At the City of Whittlesea, we are proud of our diversity and the many cultures, faiths and beliefs that make up our community. We strive to be an inclusive, welcoming city that fosters active participation, well-being and connection to each other and this land. We commit as a council to making informed decisions to benefit the people of the City of Whittlesea now and into the future, to support our community's vision of a place for all. We have a number of acknowledgements this evening, and I will start off with several of those acknowledgements. Firstly, we would like to acknowledge the anniversary of the bushfires, and recently we marked the 15-year anniversary of the 2009 bushfires that devastated the City of Whittlesea. Each year we take time to pause and reflect and remember those who lost their lives and those who were affected by this tragic event. And we take a moment to thank our emergency service staff and volunteers who have played such a critical role in safeguarding our community each year. I'd also like to report on the opening of our long-awaited Mernda Library. And to note that the library has opened its doors and it's already proving to be immensely popular. In its first week, the library had 2,254 visitors through its doors, with some 2,564 items borrowed. And we're really pleased to report that we had some 179 new members who signed up, which is really fabulous news. The library service is delivered by Council's partner, the Yarra Plenty Regional Library Corporation, and I'm really delighted to say that I'm on the board of the Yarra Plenty Regional Library Corporation alongside one of the directors, our Director of Community Wellbeing, and it's a real privilege to be on the board of YPRL. I'd also just like to note that we've had a number of citizenship ceremonies already this year. We've had 4 citizenship ceremonies at which I've been presiding officer, and across the 4 events we've had the honour of welcoming 280 residents from over an amazing 30 different countries. And we've welcomed them as new citizens to Australia, but importantly to the City of Whittlesea. We often reflect at the citizenship ceremonies that they're absolutely wonderful celebrations for those that are becoming citizens and their families and friends. And as I said, we're delighted to have welcomed 280 new citizens to the City of Whittlesea. My final acknowledgement this evening is in relation to an important research grant that we recently became aware of, and we want to extend our very sincere congratulations to one of the members of our business advisory panel, J.R. Hammer in Thomastown, who was recently awarded an amazing $3 million federal grant across 3 years for research to develop an environmentally friendly technique to enable the reuse of PVC. So we're very delighted and honoured to note that. And I also just need to say that it was a partnership project with CSIRO, RMIT and Vinyl Council. So congratulations to J.R. Hammer in their success in receiving that grant. If I could now hand over to Administrator Zara for a few other acknowledgements this evening.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple from me. Earlier this month, we were all excited to welcome 13 very passionate young people from across the City of Whittlesea who began their 2-year term as the City of Whittlesea's first Youth Council. The Youth Council formally replaces the City of Whittlesea Youth Advisory Committee and will provide valuable advice to Council on matters that affect young people in the community. I should acknowledge the excellent work done by the previous Youth Advisory Committee as well, Chair, in acknowledging the creation of this new Youth Council. A Youth Council Mayor and Deputy Mayor will be elected at the March Youth Council meeting, with the group meeting monthly to discuss matters referred to them. I, and I think all of us as administrators, wish the Youth Council all the very best for their term, and I look forward to working with them and hearing their voices and unique perspectives on important issues. Can I also mention the Community Awards, Chair? I'm pleased to announce that we have received an overwhelming number of nominations for the City of Whittlesea Community Awards. I'm advised around about 90 nominations have been received, Chair. These awards recognise the outstanding service of residents who have made a valuable contribution to our community. And I look forward to you, Chair, presenting the awards at the City of Whittlesea Community Festival on Sunday, the 17th of March.
Thank you, Administrator Zara, and I also very much look forward to making the announcements of those awards at our Community Festival. Administrator Duncan.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to extend our congratulations on behalf of administrators and the Council to Mr Jim Liaskos of Bandura, who was awarded a Member of the Order of Australia this year in the Australia Day Honours list, which is just fantastic. And he was awarded that honours for his significant service to business and to industry as a leader and a mentor. And Mr Liaskos is a Director of Airlift Hovercraft, and he's the former Chairman of the Australian Fashion Council, Melbourne Industries, Polyester Insulation Manufacturers Association and Paintback. So a very big congratulations. I've also got one more, Chair, if you wouldn't mind, and that's well done to all the students from El Sirat College and Edgar's Creek Secondary College and Wollert Secondary College. So we've got 3 groups that are coming together here for their creation of the beautiful mural at the Y Leisure City Centre in Epping. And I know the finished result was after months and months of hard work and collaboration with the street artist Baby Gorilla. So it's just fantastic, and I'm sure it's wonderful for all of us to see all the students coming together and working collaboratively to create a beautiful mural and something really special that all of the community can enjoy. So thank you so much to those 3 schools and their students, and to Baby Gorilla for also being the artist that put the mural together. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, administrators. Administrators and officers, if you have a conflict of interest in any item on the agenda, you may verbally disclose the type and nature of the interest now, but you must make a declaration immediately before consideration of the matter in question. Administrators, are there any items for which you have a conflict of interest to declare?
No, Chair.
No, Chair.
I also have no conflict of interest to declare. Do any officers present this evening have any conflicts of interest in relation to any item on today's agenda to declare? Thank you. I now seek a motion to confirm the minutes of the following preceding meeting, the scheduled meeting of Council held on the 19th of December 2023. Do I have a mover?
Happy to move that, Chair.
Thank you,
I'm happy to
Administrator
second it, Chair.
Duncan. Thank you, Administrator Zara. I'll now put the matter to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. If we now move into public question time, Council allows up to 30 minutes for public questions, petitions or joint letters from our community to be read out by the CEO's delegate and responded to by the Chief Executive Officer. Any questions submitted that relate to matters outside the duties, functions and powers of Council, is discourteous or disrespectful, defamatory or intends to prejudice or insult someone may be declined. All questions and responses will be recorded in the minutes of the Council meeting. And I note this evening that we have received 3 public questions, and I'm going to hand over to Jacinta Stevens, our Executive Manager, the Office of Council and CEO, to read each question in turn, and then I'll ask our Chief Executive Officer again to respond to each question in turn. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. Our first question is from Basil Alagoldi of South Morang. Basil's question is, what has the Council prepared to fulfil their maintenance responsibilities for the Waterstone Hill Estate public land and reserves?
Thank you, Chair, and welcome, Basil. See you in the gallery there. So thank you for your question. The Waterstone Hill Estate Reserve is maintained by an owners' corporation, with its members being the owners of 332 lots within that estate. The owners' corporation was created at the time that the estate was subdivided, and the agreement is registered on each of the 332 titles. Council, as the owner of the reserve, oversees and regularly audits this maintenance. Council has provided advice to the owners' corporation on the steps that will need to be taken to make an application to change this environment. And as always, our staff are available to discuss this further should you require some more detail.
Thank you for your question, Basil, and thank you for being in attendance this evening. And if I could encourage you to take up the offer of our CEO to have any further discussions that you may wish to. Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, the second question is from Mr Bruce Langford of Whittlesea. The question is, what can the Council do about changing local regulations regarding the installation of independent domestic electricity systems? Thank you.
Thank you, CEO.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Bruce, for your question. Our thoughts, obviously, are with those who have been, and in some cases, unfortunately, are still impacted by the recent power outages. The City of Whittlesea does not have the authority to review or make decisions on state or national regulations related to the installation and operation of independent domestic electricity systems. There are a number of regulatory bodies who oversee the domestic electricity market, including the Australian Energy Market Commission, and there is more information available on the Australian Energy Regulator's website at aer.gov.au if you'd like to find more. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And our third question through you, Chair, is from Courtney Millett of Craigieburn. With a Muslim population of over 9%, what is the Whittlesea Council doing to show their support for the Palestinian people and cause?
Thank you.
Thank you again, Chair, and thank you, Courtney, for your question. The City of Whittlesea extends its thoughts and sympathies to those impacted by the war in the Middle East. We're a diverse community and home to almost 250,000 people. 38% of our residents were born overseas from over 114 different countries and are of many different faiths. Council's vision is to be a place for all. Through the provision of inclusive and accessible facilities, important services and an impactful array of programs, including community grants, we seek to make lives better for all in our diverse community. As a council, we take pride in honouring and supporting a comprehensive program of significant cultural and religious dates and events that are important to our residents to foster a sense of belonging for all here in the city of Whittlesea. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Craig. And that concludes our public question time. And if we can now move into petitions and joint letters. And I note that this evening we have received 2 petitions for tabling at this evening's council meeting. And again, if I could call on Executive Manager Jacinta Stevens to read out the preamble of the first petition.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. The preamble of the petition states, as of the 19th of the 2nd, 24, the death toll in Gaza has just passed 28,000. While this may be happening thousands of miles away, many local Whittlesea community members are deeply affected by this conflict, particularly those who share religious, cultural and familiar ties to those in Palestine. We ask the Council pass a motion in support of Palestine. This motion must contain these essential elements: a call for an immediate, unconditional and permanent ceasefire, a call for withdrawal of Israel from occupied Palestinian land, an acknowledgement and mourning of the horrific loss of the Palestinian and Israeli lives, and a condemnation of attacks targeting civilians. An acknowledgement that the conflict did not begin on October 7th, but with the Israeli occupation of Palestine. An acknowledgement that many global organisations and institutions have documented evidence of war crimes committed by Israel against the Palestinians. A commitment to fly the Palestinian flag above the Council office. Call upon the Australian Government to condemn Israeli war crimes, call for an immediate, unconditional and permanent ceasefire, and end all military, economic, political and diplomatic ties to the Israel until it complies with its obligations under international law. Through you, Chair, officers recommend this petition be tabled for noting. Thank you.
Thank you. Administrators, could I have a mover to table this petition?
So moved, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Zara, and a seconder.
Seconded, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. As the mover, Administrator Zara, would you like to speak to the petition?
No, Chair.
As the seconder, Administrator Duncan, would you like to speak to the petition?
No, Chair.
Before I actually put that motion for voting, I would like to very briefly speak to this motion and provide a statement on behalf of the City of Whittlesea. The City of Whittlesea extends our thoughts and sympathies to those in our community who have family and friends directly impacted by the war in the Middle East. We do not condone violence and respect the right of everyone to live peacefully in accordance with their human rights. These international issues are the remit of the federal government, and as a local council, we will continue to focus our efforts on delivering services for our local community, which has already been mentioned in the response to our previous public question. I'll now put that motion to table this petition to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. I'll again now call on Jacinta Stevens to read out the preamble of the second petition.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. The preamble of the petition states, Australia Day means different things to many. It is still a day to be proud and acknowledge the sum of all Australians. It is also a day to acknowledge those who have served, fought and died under our flag, defending our freedoms. For some, Australia Day may be painful. We believe that the debate about Australia Day is not the role of local councils, who should be focused on local issues. We ask that Council leave Australia Day alone and hold community events that celebrate Australia Day, acknowledge Indigenous culture, mark Australia Day with citizenship ceremonies. Through you, Chair, officers recommend this petition be tabled for noting. The petition from a large number of signatories request, and I quote, "Council leave Australia Day alone and hold community events that celebrate Australia Day, acknowledge Indigenous culture and mark Australia Day with citizenship ceremonies." Thank you.
Thank you, Jacinta. Administrators, could I have a mover to table this petition?
So moved, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. And a seconder?
Seconded, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. Sorry, just to highlight that the mover is actually moving that this petition be tabled for noting.
That's correct, Chair.
Administrator Zara, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, Chair.
Administrator Duncan?
No, Chair.
I'll now put that motion to table this petition to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. If we now move forward to consideration of reports, and we'll be working through the agenda this evening, starting with item 5.1, the Quarterly Corporate Performance Report, Quarter 2, ended on the 31st of December 2023. And if I could invite Sarah Renner, Director of Customer and Corporate Services, to briefly introduce this item. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Chair. We are pleased to present our quarterly corporate performance report for the period ended 31st of December, which focuses on our financial performance, community action plan items, governance and capital works. And I would like to invite Aaron, our Chief Financial Officer, to briefly speak to the paper.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. Starting from a community plan, action plan perspective, out of the 56 key actions to be delivered this financial year, 8 actions have been completed, 46 are reported on track, 1 action reported to monitor, and 1 is off track, with further detail included in the report. From a capital works perspective, the year-to-date capital works expenditure was $1.4 million ahead of budget, primarily due to works progressing ahead of schedule. It is anticipated that at year-end, Council will finish on $85.1 million and expect carry-forwards of $12 million to the next financial year. From a financial performance perspective, Council's operating surplus was $20.1 million, favourable to the year-to-date budget, largely driven by receiving higher than anticipated monetary contributions from developers as a result of continued growth. The Quarter 2 forecast review is anticipating an operating surplus of $148.3 million, which is $20.2 million favourable to the adopted budget. I'd like to highlight Council's operating surplus is an accounting result only and is calculated to comply with the Australian accounting standards and importantly does not constitute excess cash available for Council to spend. This is due to the fact that Council's surplus is largely made up of either non-cash items, such as asset contributions from developers, or cash items that are restricted by legislation and how they can be spent by Council in the future. I propose the recommendations as outlined in the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah and Aaron. Administrators, do you have any questions relating to this item?
No questions from me, Chair.
Yes, Chair, I've got one question. In the actual corporate performance report on page 20, it indicates that there's a range of initiatives and associated amounts to do with Council implementing these things to support our community, and it's reduced debt, including financial hardship and payment arrangements. I'm just wondering if you could tell me how many people does this approximately relate to in the various categories?
Thanks, Administrator Duncan. So there has been an uplift from the same time last year. So there has been a significant uplift of applications for financial hardship, but in line with our processes, the applications and the residents have gone on payment plans, and that's what the majority of them meet, so payment plans. But there is an increase, so an uplift from the same time last year, by a percentage of, I think, about 40 to 50%.
40 to 50% additional requests. Does that respond to your question, Administrator Duncan? Any further questions?
No, thanks, Chair.
I do have a couple of questions as well. I wonder if you could comment a little bit further in relation to our capital expenditure program delivery. And I note within the officer report that there is a comment about delays associated with planning, tendering and construction activities throughout the year. I just wonder whether you could comment whether this is a recurring trend that you think is going to continue into the future. And I might ask Sarah if she'd like to respond to that question.
Thank you, Chair, for the question. We've concentrated on our capital plan quite extensively to really ensure we can mitigate against any delays, and hence we're pleased to report that we are 1.4 million ahead of our forecast spend on capital. Some of the aspects that we've put in place involve our Enterprise Project Management Office, which really looks at preparing well ahead of the financial year project briefs. It also looks at design-ready and construction-ready projects to really reduce carry-forwards. So although Aaron reported on a forecast at this point in time, $12 million carry forward, that's a significant reduction of around 11 million of carry forwards that we accommodated this financial year. We've also pleasingly introduced further regular risk reviews to ensure that we can mitigate against delays as much as we can. Thank you.
That's really excellent to hear. Thank you for that clarification. And just one further one from me. I just wonder whether you could clarify, there's a note against the negative variance relating to lodgement of fees with Fines Victoria, which is in the actual corporate performance report itself. And I wonder whether you could just clarify that note.
Thank you, Chair. So with the fines, there was an increase in, and also, so there was updated and new agreements with commercial properties, and with that increase, we've seen an increase in number of fines issued. Therefore, following the same process that we followed for all other fines, and with the uplift in issuing of fines, we've seen the process increase to the number that have gone through to Fines Victoria. So just following the same process, and there's been a return on investment of 70% this financial year, so there's been a lot of work going on behind the scenes, and it's a real uplift in that space.
Good. Thank you. That's good to hear as well. Thank you for the clarification. If there's no further questions, do I have a mover for the officer recommendation for item 5.1?
Happy to move it, Chair, and reserve my right to speak.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. And a seconder.
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. Administrator Zara.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to our officers for their presentation and work over the quarter reported to us today. I think it's really important to emphasise, Chair, that this is public accountability in practice. And this is an important part of the way in which we, at the City of Whittlesea, live up to the things that we articulate in this place and in our policies and procedures of being good and faithful servants to the people of the City of Whittlesea and being accountable and transparent in everything we do. I just want to point to a couple of elements that are in the report, but of, I think, real importance to make sure people have front of mind in considering this update. There is a lot of progress across many different areas of work, Chair, but one of the things I really love to see is the way in which our team fearlessly report when things are not on track or are in the category monitor. There's only two of those, but our team puts them front and centre They don't bury them in a report, they put them front and centre for everyone to see. I think it really is to the credit of our team that they do that so that the public can be informed as to not just where we're succeeding, and we are doing a lot of succeeding in this report, but also to identify and publicly acknowledge where there are a couple of issues which haven't gone exactly as we planned, and that's not a surprise to those of us who've been around large organisations for a long period of time, Chair. That happens routinely. But I think that's really something for us to celebrate, that our team does, and to really encourage people to continue long past our terms, so that the public can be aware of not just the great progress, but where there are things that are not going right, that a public explanation is provided and people can be reassured that our team is aware of that issue and is very competently addressing it. So well done.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. Administrator Duncan.
Thank you, Chair. Administrator Zara has really covered off on a lot of things I was going to say, so I won't bang on for too long. But just a congratulations, Sarah and Aaron, and to the whole team and everyone at Council that makes this happen in terms of delivery and putting together the corporate report every year. And to admit my colleague's point here, the transparency is fantastic, and I encourage anyone watching tonight to do go and have a look at what we're putting out tonight and moving and seconding tonight, because it is very clear as to what's happening and why things aren't happening, and I think that is fantastic, so well done.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. Could I just echo the comments of my colleagues, but also just highlight that this is absolutely best practice because it's a composite report. So to be able to see the financials, our performance against the community plan actions, our capital expenditure as one composite report and good governance is definitely best practice. And I do just need to note that this report was tabled at the Audit and Risk Committee last week, and they have also commented about the fact that having it as a composite report is just such a good thing. So I also extend my congratulations to staff for the report and the ongoing public transparency in reporting. Thank you. I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you very much. Item 5.2, Planning Scheme Amendment C269, 149 McKimmy's Road, Bundoora, rezoning exhibition outcome. And if I could invite Emma Appleton, our Director of Planning and Development, to introduce this item. Thank you, Emma.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. So this report tonight presents the outcomes of the exhibition of Planning Scheme Amendment C269, which applies to the land at 149 McKimmy's Road, Bundoora. I'm going to hand over to George, now our Manager for Strategic Futures, to take us through the main items of the report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The previous quarrying and filling activities on the site have now ceased on the subject site, and rehabilitation works have commenced in accordance with EPA requirements. This aligns with state government policy, which seeks to facilitate the remediation of contaminated land in developed areas of Melbourne with the potential for residential reuse. A statement of environmental audit has been issued by the EPA, which is significant, and that confirms that the land, noting its previous use, is suitable for residential development. Within that context, the amendment seeks to rezone 36.4 hectares of the site from industrial to the general residential zone to facilitate the redevelopment of the site. Specifically, it proposes to introduce a bespoke general residential zone schedule, applied development plan overlay, which requires further work to guide future development of the site, and amends the land subject to inundation overlay area in accordance with Melbourne Water's new flood mapping. The amendment also proposes, importantly, to incorporate 15% social and affordable housing on the site and to significantly increase tree canopy coverage compared to other developments that we've got. So it's introducing that policy into practice. Following the statutory 4-week exhibition process, which included a public information session, Council received 9 submissions from a mix of surrounding residents, neighbouring properties and affected agencies and government departments. Not all the submissions were able to be resolved, and on that basis, from a statutory perspective, and noting that the strategic basis for the amendment remains sound, the report recommends that all submissions be referred to an independent planning panel. The planning panel will consider the submissions and then ultimately make recommendations to council for their consideration on the amendment. The report, in summary, outlines the office's response to submissions and the recommended changes to the exhibited amendment, which should form the basis of council's submission to the planning panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I wasn't going to stop you because I knew
I was
you
on
were
a roll.
very close to
That's
the
right,
end.
thank you. The pressure.
Thank you very much for that comprehensive introduction. Administrators, do you have any questions relating to this item?
No, Chair.
Not from me either, Chair.
And I also have no questions. So I am seeking a mover for the officer recommendation for item 5.2.
Happy to move that, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. And a seconder?
Happy to second it, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. Administrator Duncan.
Thank you for your presentation. I think it's fantastic work, and that's all I've really got to say about this one, but well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. Administrator Zara.
I'll be brief as well, Chair. Just to congratulate the team on the work that's been done so far. This is an important site and significant. And I also, just through you, Chair, want to thank those people who took the time to participate in the process. Our decisions are improved with every submission we receive, so through you to thank them. The next steps are important here, and they are the next phase now of completing this work. So our team have got it to this point, and now there is a second and we hope final phase to this work, which I think will see a significant outcome at the conclusion of its process in the public interest.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. And I particularly just want to draw attention to Part 4 of the officer recommendation, just to note that irrespective of the request to the Minister for Planning to appoint the planning panel, officers nonetheless will attempt to continue discussions and resolve any of the unresolved submissions prior to the actual panel hearing. So I think that's really positive. I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thanks again. We have another planning scheme amendment this evening, item 5.3, planning scheme amendment C278, update to the former Wollert Church Heritage Overlay. And again, Emma, if I could invite you to provide a brief introduction to this item.
Yes, thank you, and through you, Chair. The former Wollert Church has been relocated and we're seeking to update the heritage overlay on that site. I'm going to hand over to Catherine, who's our Coordinator, Planning Policy and Implementation, to take us through it briefly.
Thank you. Over to you, Catherine.
Thanks, Emma. This report relates to the Wollert Church, formerly located near the intersection of Epping and Lehmans Roads in Wollert. The former church was moved from this location by Major Road Projects Victoria as a result of the Epping Road duplication to the site of the Carome Homestead in Mernda, owned by Parks Victoria. In summary, the proposed amendment seeks to remove the redundant heritage controls from the former site and replace them on the relocated site, which will include updating the schedule to the heritage overlay with the new location details and updating the mapping to reflect the new location and curtilage of the church on the Carome Homestead site. The Carome Homestead site is a state-owned heritage site run by a committee of management as a restaurant cafe, and it's intended that the former church will also be used as a function venue. Council officers sought advice from the Department of Transport and Planning to prepare the amendment under Section 20 Part 4 of the Planning and Environment Act, which exempts the amendment from the section of the Act that would normally require affected landowners to be notified of the amendment. This was considered appropriate given that the amendment is essentially administrative in nature, and the department agreed that it met the conditions for this exemption. This process is an example of the partnership between Council and the State Government to identify the significance of the building and work together to save, relocate and restore the building to a high standard and provide for its ongoing use on the new site. Thank you for your consideration of the report.
Thank you, Catherine. Administrators, do you have any questions relating to this item?
No question.
I also have no questions. So I'm looking for a mover for the officer recommendation for item 5.3.
So moved, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. And a seconder?
Seconded, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. Administrator Zara.
Be brief, Chair. This reflects, obviously, we've got a new location for this important bit of the history of our district. It's worth saying something that's perhaps obvious, Chair, which is that just because the building's been moved doesn't mean that it loses its value. No. It's still an incredibly important part of local and regional history, and I'm so glad to see that we're taking the appropriate steps to ensure that is recognised and appropriate protections are maintained. I can think of a couple of places near where I grew up, Chair, where these issues have perhaps not been as well handled. And there's been a great loss, I think, of where buildings are moved as part of, if you like, a broader reconfiguration of a location to make way for other developments. Sometimes they're a very big deal and important to see happen, but then the value of that church and the cultural history and significance of it is lost. And sometimes those heritage and other related protections, cultural protections, have not been put in place. That's why I'm so delighted to see that our team have taken great care here to make sure that this important asset will remain exactly that for many generations to come.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. Administrator Duncan.
Thank you, Chair. Administrator Zara has stolen a bit of my thunder of what I was going to say, but I do believe this is a fantastic outcome for the community. We've had a church relocated for the widening of a road, so it's all working for the community, and to think now that it's a thriving business as well, I think that's really fantastic. So congratulations to everyone involved in this. I think it's really great. Thank you.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. All I just wanted to say is that this is definitely a good news story. And the fact that, in fact, as Administrator Zara has said, that there's new life going to be with the church, with its new purpose. I just wanted to make one other point. You had indicated it's a partnership with the state government. I also would just like to thank the Whittlesea Historical Society and community members who have supported Council in getting to this point. So great outcome. Congratulations to Council officers. It's really wonderful. So I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you again. So if we now move to item 5.4, Tender Evaluation Report 2023-114, Construction of Granite Hills Major Community Park. And if I could invite our Director of Infrastructure and Environment, Debbie Wood, to provide a brief introduction to this item. Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm really excited to be presenting this paper to Council tonight. It's a paper for the awarding of the tender for the Granite Hills Major Community Park, another fantastic facility for our community to enjoy when we get this constructed and up and running. But I have Adrian here with me, our Unit Manager of Parks Development, who will just talk you through the paper and the recommendations. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Adrian. Over to you.
Thank you, Debbie. Evening, Chair, evening, administrators. Granite Hills Major Community Park will be located within the Quarry Hills Regional Parklands, with the main entrance off Cravens and Hunters Road, Mernda. The parklands are a defining quality of our city and contribute to the natural character of our growth areas. In 2019, a landscape master plan for the parklands was developed to guide future land and project planning, of which stage 1 of the master plan is for the development of Granite Hills Major Community Park. Our new park will provide a welcoming gateway into the broader Quarry Hills regional parkland and future access up into the Aboriginal gathering place. The project will be delivered in two parts. Part 1 for the overall landscape works, including picnic and park furniture, barbecues, and the design and construction of the custom play space. Part 2 of the works is for the design and construction of a modern public amenities and large shelter, which includes a changing places facility and additional minor park shelters through the park. The project builds upon other works for the park which have already been awarded, including the construction of 2 water bodies, which are in progress, and the design and construction of a custom boardwalk, which is in its final designs. This project has been successful in receiving $2.5 million funding through the state government's Growing Suburbs Fund program, which we are extremely grateful for. And the tender submitted from Warrendale Industries Proprietary Limited was determined by the tender evaluation panel to be the best value, and is considered that this company can perform the contract to the required standards and specifications. Once awarded, on-site construction activities will commence in April and is scheduled to be complete in February 2025. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adrian. Administrators, do you have any questions relating to this item?
I don't have any questions, Chair. Thank you.
Administrator Duncan?
No questions, Chair.
And I also have no questions in relation to this item. So I'm seeking a mover for the officer recommendation for item 5.4.
Happy to move, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. And a seconder.
I'd like to second it and reserve my right to speak, please, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. Administrator Duncan.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just say that this has been a journey for this site. Obviously, we've got the community park, which will be at the bottom, and then the Aboriginal gathering place up at the top as well. And it's just so fantastic that we're finally here now, where in April this will commence its redevelopment, so to speak, if I can use that term. So I'm very excited to see it when it's finished, and I just encourage anyone in the community to get on the website and look at the plans that we have for this area, because it's going to be magnificent. So congratulations to everyone at Council who has participated in community engagement, planning and all of those things, because this will be a jewel in the crown for the City of Whittlesea. So well done to Debbie, Adrian and everybody else in Council who's contributed to this. Congratulations.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. Administrator Zara.
Thank you, Chair, and I welcome the opportunity to speak on this. And I just pick up where my colleague, Administrator Duncan, left off. A jewel in the crown in the City of Whittlesea. I think it really will be. It'll be something very special, and it will be enabled by the dedication of our team, the hard work that people have shown, the participation in the from the community and being advocates and supporters of this project for a long time. This is another example, I think, of excellent public accountability from our team. We've got in front of us in the report a comprehensive setting out of the probity process that's been followed, the ranking process for Part 1 and 2, and then clear recommendations. Excellent process, and I think we're going to have an absolutely fantastic outcome. I just encourage people who might have an interest in this project and in, I guess, matters associated with the governance of the City of Whittlesea to take the time and have a read of this report. It is excellent work, and I just think we're going to have, at the conclusion of this process, enabled by this excellent procurement process that's been run, we're going to have an absolutely fantastic asset, as our colleague Administrator Duncan put it, you know, the jewel in the crown for the City of Whittlesea, something I think for people in the local region and all the team involved in helping enable it, something to be really proud of. And I just say this through you, Chair, that this is really core business for City of Whittlesea, making a difference to the lives of local residents through projects like this, community infrastructure, parklands, lifestyle improving projects. You know, I couldn't be more proud of seeing all this work done and the fantastic outcome that we're going to have. So through you again, Chair, just thank our team, and just through you thank all of those people in the City of Whittlesea who've been great champions of getting to this point now that we're all so proud to celebrate.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. My colleagues have said it all. This is so exciting, and congratulations to everyone for such a great outcome. Thank you. And I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you again. Item 5.5 is variation and extension of contract 2017-137, supply of bulk fuel. And again, if I could invite you, Debbie, to provide a brief introduction to this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be very brief. I have David here with us, our Unit Manager of Fleet, and David will just do a quick intro to the report and the recommendations. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Welcome, David.
Thank you very much. So this is the submission tonight at Council is for the variation and the extension of contract for the supply of bulk fuel at the Works Depot. All processes have been followed, and this is for a 12-month extension which will align us then with the MAV timeframes.
Thank you. Succinct and to the point. Thank you very much. Administrators, do you have any questions relating to this item?
This is very straightforward and easy to support, so no questions from me, Chair.
Administrator Duncan?
No, very straightforward and a nice short introduction. Thanks, David.
And I also have no questions. So I'm going to seek a mover for the officer recommendation for item 5.5.
Happy to move this, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. And a seconder.
I am happy to second it, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. And I'm going to hand over to Administrator Duncan to see if she would like to speak to this item.
What can I say, Chair? I thank you for the short introduction, David, and it's pretty straightforward, but thank you for coming tonight and presenting.
Thank you. Administrator Zara, would you like to speak to it?
No, thank you. I think Administrator Duncan said it all.
I also have no further comments to add, so I'm going to put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you for being here and for the presentation. If we now move to item 5.6, informal meetings of administrators, and again, if I could ask our Executive Manager, Office of Council and the CEO, Jacinta Stevens, to provide a brief overview of this report.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. For transparency, Council reports informal non-decision making briefings of the administrators and the officers. This report outlines the informal meetings held to date this year for noting. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacinta. Administrators, do you have any questions relating to this item?
No, Chair.
Administrator Zara?
No, Chair.
And I also have no questions. So again, I'm seeking a mover for the officer recommendation for item 5.6.
Happy to move, Chair.
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you, Administrators Duncan and Zara. I'll now put that motion to a vote, unless either of you would like to speak to it. I'll now put that motion to a vote. The motion is carried. If we now move to item 5.7, which is the Administrator Update Report, and could I just note at the outset that under Rule 35.5 of Council's governance rules, I'm going to use my discretion and allow an additional 2 minutes per administrator, including myself as chair, if required, to speak on this agenda item. And so I would like to present the Administrator Update Report and just make a few comments in relation to this report, which basically provides a really comprehensive overview for the Minister for Local Government and for our community of the activities of the administrators. And this relates for the last half of 2023, from July to December inclusive. And the report provides details of our performance against our adopted action plan and key achievements, particularly in relation to those important aspects of good governance, responsible financial management, customer service initiatives, our active community engagement, the strategic planning work that we've been undertaking, and of course our advocacy endeavours. And I just want to particularly highlight 3 aspects. Firstly, that we are on track to fully realise our integrated planning framework prior to our departure, with our final major strategy, which is the Aboriginal Action Plan, due for endorsement early this year. Our proactive work, together with the organisation, to ensure a really smooth transition to the return to elected representatives in the lead up to and after the council elections, which will be occurring in October of this year. And finally, that we've achieved a lot during 2020. We've still got a lot to achieve during 2024. And I know I can speak on behalf of all of the administrators in saying how really united we are and fully committed to finalise all of the actions identified in our roadmap going forward. Attachment 1 to the report provides a really comprehensive report on our activities over the past 6-month period, and the recommendations of this report, which are up on the screen now, recommend that the biannual Administrator Update Report for the period July to December 2023 be noted, that it's already been forwarded to the Minister for Local Government and to all local MPs, and that a final detailed report and proposed roadmap for the newly elected council will be provided to the Minister for Local Government no later than August 2024. So I'm seeking a mover for the recommendations that are showing on the screen now for item 5.7. Do I have a mover?
Happy to move it, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. And a seconder?
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan, and I think I didn't need any extension of time. Administrator Zara.
Just briefly, Chair, because I think you've spoken very eloquently on behalf of all of us, but I just make the point that it's an unusual circumstance for a panel of administrators to be appointed to serve as the council as we are doing now. So it is really important to be mindful of our public accountability duties and to make sure that we're keeping people, the community, abreast of everything that we're doing, and this report is one way in which we're able to do that, in addition to our council meetings and many other processes that we have. So this is, I think, an effort on our behalf to make sure that we're being very transparent and keeping all of those details collated and providing them in a report that's easily digestible for people who might have an interest in these things and want to read a report which provides a 6-monthly summary. So nothing further to add, Chair. I think you've said it very nicely on behalf of all of us.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. Administrator Duncan.
Thank you, Chair. I think yourself and Administrator Zara have said it very nicely, as my colleague just said. So I don't have a lot to add except to just say that it has been a massive 6 months, and that I encourage anyone who in the community just to have a look at the plethora of things that have been achieved, and just to thank all the council officers and the executive for their obviously their help with from their teams to ensure that we're on track to deliver everything that we have on our agenda coming into our last time here at the council. So thank you to everyone who's assisted us.
Thank you, administrators, and I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. So we're now moving on to item 6, notices of motion, and I note that there are no notices of motion. Item 7 is urgent business. Administrators, are there any items of urgent business this evening?
No, Chair.
None, Chair.
No. So if we move then to item 8, which is reports of council representatives and CEO update, and if I could invite you, Administrator Duncan, to provide an update this evening at the council meeting and for members of the public.
Yes, Chair, happy to do that. Thank you. I did a citizenship ceremony in January, which was fantastic, and then attended many council briefings and special council briefings, and obviously here tonight with all of you for the scheduled council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. Are there any questions of Administrator Duncan? No. Thank you. Administrator Zara.
Thank you, Chair. Only a couple of things to briefly mention. Obviously, the council briefings, which my colleague Administrator Duncan has mentioned, special council briefings, the Audit and Risk Committee meetings, which you and I participate in together, Chair. Obviously, our scheduled council meeting today, and perhaps the most enjoyable of all, the City of Whittlesea Community Awards Committee. So that's my brief update, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. Any questions of Administrator Zara? So if I could then also just briefly provide a public report, and I won't go back through the things that my colleagues have already indicated. I'll just note in particular the fact that I attended a meeting of our Business Advisory Panel. It's a wonderful panel, and it has been refreshed in membership to ensure proper representation across sectors. And is really functioning very, very well. And it was hosted by Whittlesea Technical School, so that was a really great meeting. I attended also 4 of the citizenship ceremonies, and I reported on that earlier, with some 280 new citizens across those 4 citizenship ceremonies, and a really great honour always to attend and to be presiding officer. And I'd also just finally want to note that I participated alongside our CEO with the MAV session on the 2024 Local Government Reform consultation paper, and I thought that was a very beneficial and very well attended session at which we had very good discussion in relation to some of the proposals in the state government's reform paper and what the collective view across the sector was in relation to some of the individual recommendations. So that was very beneficial. I'm happy to respond to any questions that my colleagues might have.
No, Chair.
I thought you were going to ask me a trick question, Administrator Zara. I'm now going to hand over to the CEO to also provide an update to both Council and the community.
Thank you, Chair. Last Friday it was my pleasure to join the member for Yanyeen, Lauren Cathage MP, to break ground on a new public toilet and improve pedestrian walkways that will benefit the visitors to Lorimer Town Centre in Doreen. The fully automated, accessible and self-cleaning unisex public toilet will be installed at the site of the Lorimer Community Activity Centre on Hazel Glen Drive. In addition, new pedestrian pathways, an accessible parking bay and landscaping will help provide more accessibility for visitors to the area, making it easier and more convenient to get around. We're expecting that facility to be finished mid-year, and it's been jointly funded by the City of Whittlesea and the Victorian Government's Our Suburbs Living Local Fund. In a step towards making our city greener and cleaner, Council has been transitioning our fleet to electric vehicles with the arrival of 2 electric sedans and 2 utes. The transition to a fully electric fleet will occur over several years and supports the City of Whittlesea's net zero goal by reducing carbon emissions and the reliance on carbon offsets. Transport's a major source of greenhouse gas emissions, so this is an important step forward, and by using electric cars we'll also be saving money in the long run through lower operating costs and less maintenance on our fleet. Stage 1 of the Olivine Recreation Reserve in Donnybrook is now complete. Built by the property developer Mirvac in collaboration with the City of Whittlesea, the precinct features a pavilion, netball and futsal courts, cricket nets, dog park and a playground. The benefits to the community of the pavilion will extend well beyond sport, with organisations able to hire out a room for community-based activities. Construction on the precinct's second stage, which includes 2 football and cricket ovals, started before Christmas and is expected to be completed in the coming months. Nominations for the City of Whittlesea Business Awards are now open. These awards provide an opportunity for our business community to showcase their success and contribution to our local community and beyond. Awards will be presented across 6 categories, and that includes a new category this year for home-based businesses. Entries close on Sunday 3rd of March, and you can find out more on our website at whittlesea.vic.gov.au/business awards. And finally, a reminder to families that our annual Kindergarten Open Day and Night is coming up on Thursday the 29th of February from 5:30 to 7:30pm, and also on Saturday the 2nd of March from 9:30am to 11:30am. Families can tour local kinders, meet teachers and learn more about kindergarten in the city of Whittlesea. Again, you can find more information about that one, Chair, on our website. Thank you.
Thanks very much for that comprehensive update, Craig. Administrators, any questions of the CEO?
No, Chair.
And I also have no questions, but I do note that all of our respective verbal reports will be documented in the minutes. I note that we don't have any items of confidential business this evening, so that brings us to the end of the meeting, and therefore I declare the meeting formally closed at 7:35pm. Thank you, everyone.